Hey, I don't know about you, but I can feel so scattered sometimes between the pinball machine of thoughts bouncing around my mind, not to mention all the notifications, my very loud children, and the ongoing demands coming at me all day, every day. The days can feel overwhelming. That's exactly why I created my brand new Start Your Day Planner. This planner helps you start each day clear, confident, and in control. This simple 5-minute morning routine gives you easy prompts that give context, clarity, and focus to your day so you know exactly what to focus on and you finally feel good about how you spend your time. And I'm so excited to let you know that the physical hard copy of the Start Your Day Planner is now available. You can head over to startyourdayplanner.com to get your copy. And if you want to check it out before you buy it, you can even download a free digital sample of the Start Your Day Planner. You can see the inside. Go ahead, get started on the system and try it out for yourself. Head over to startyourdayplanner.com and get ready to start your days in a whole new way. That's startyourdayplanner.com. Hey everyone, and welcome to Get Your Hopes Up. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so glad you're here. Romans 15:13 says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by power of the Holy Spirit." Our God is the God of hope, and he wants you to overflow with hope. So let's start our week by getting our hopes up again. Now, today we are continuing my conversation with Justin Whitmel Earley. Justin is the author of one of my newest favorite books, The Habits of the Household, and his newest kids book, The Big Mess. We are talking about very practical rhythms that you can create in your home, in your family, in your culture that can truly change not only how you interact with each other, but change your sense of peace, your pace of life, and certainly how you interact with the Lord. I love how practical his book is, but I also love how hopeful and inspirational it is. If you missed part one, be sure to go back and listen to part one of our conversation from last week. And now we'll dive in to part two with Justin Whitmel Earley. There's two things that you talked about in your book specifically. You talked about a lot of things that we could camp on, but there's two things specifically that really struck me that I want to dig into. And one of them, the first one, is the messiness of the whole process. Okay, so I think that we have this expectation, Justin, that we're going to scroll Instagram and an influencer is going to tell us, you do these 3 steps with your kids and this is going to work. And we do the 3 steps and it doesn't work and we give up and we're mad.
Right.
What you talk about so much in your book is the messiness of the process. You talk about your nighttime blessings and how someone's wrestling naked in the process and they're being silly and somebody's punching their brother and like, you're still speaking the blessing of the, like, you don't stop your habits and your intentions and your blessings and your efforts and your intentionality just because it's messy and hard and not perfect.
Right,
You just,
right.
it's this long obedience in the same direction.
Ooh,
It's
yes.
this not giving up, this persistence, even though you're not really seeing fruit on day 1, Justin, or maybe day 31, you're still not seeing fruit, but you don't give up. Will you talk about that? Because I think that is something so many parents miss, and we give up so quickly because we don't see the immediate transformation because it's not a microwave, it's a crock pot. Will you talk about being okay with, as you implement these habits, it being messy and your kids laughing at you and kind of making fun of you and still sticking with it? Like, let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, that is life. One of the quotes that has deeply, deeply impacted me is from G.K. Chesterton, who says something, anything that is worth doing badly. Meaning, I take it to mean a lot of things, but anything that is important is going to be hard, and anything that's worth it is probably going to be something that needs to be practiced. That's life, and that's sort of a reality everywhere. So I often want to remind people, what you're doing now is really sloppy. The life you have now is really messy, right? So it is probably better to say, well, how could I move it towards something that is more peaceful, less burdensome, more towards the love of Jesus rather than not, even if that process is still really messy. So I just say that because I want people to think it's not, you don't have the wrong answer just because it's hard the first time, right? Anything worth doing is. And any parent, I think, after a couple young years realizes that habits have to be learned, and things can be made normal in the house by doing them over and over and over. But I just think part of the fundamental mistake that we make, that I make all the time, is skipping the patience of grace that Jesus has with us. I mean, you too learned how to tie your shoes through many, many failed steps. Like you too learned how to not spill your milk. You too learned how to, be quiet around so that other people can talk. And some of us still struggle with a lot of this, right? Maybe not the spilled milk, but with the virtue stuff. And we expect the patience of Jesus with us. When we confess like, we're nuanced and Jesus understands us. But when we parent, we're like, how do you not get this? Like, how did you not figure this out the first time? And part of my pause prayer idea is to remind yourself, ask for help, and ask yourself, do you want to be more like Jesus or more like you in this moment? Ask his help to do that, because we sort of demand instant results from our kids, but Jesus does not. Jesus realizes that we change sort of at the pace of a garden, right? Gardens grow, but they need to be worked on, and it's really slow and gradual, but constant tending even in the messiness of the garden will produce something beautiful and something fruitful. And that's true with our children. So we have to realize that anything beautiful and good in our kids and in our home is going to be very messy in the process. And just to put a fine point of an example on it, it's like our morning prayer this morning. I'm not concerned that one of my children was laying on the floor, like sort of rolling around in confusion as we did morning prayer at the door this morning. And I'm not concerned that one of them declined to say it this morning. It was two of us. It was all four of us were there. Two of them were just totally out of it, but we did our morning prayer. What I'm concerned with is that we've done our morning prayer for years running now. Like, it's messy every day, but it happens. And by habit, like they're internalizing this idea that we pray as a family, that they know these prayers. But it's always messy. Like, it doesn't change.
Yeah. And I think, and then when you get those glimpses, right? Like, it's like months later or years later, after you being obedient, you being consistent, you being through the mess, you're like, no, we're doing the morning prayer, whatever the thing is in your household, whatever the listener is doing in their household. Every now and then you get a glimmer of the fruit. You get a glimmer of the hope where they go, I want to pray tonight. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're getting it. Like, you're getting, but it is that, I love the gardening example because it's so slow. We want it to be like, okay, I've got a new plan. And everyone's like, great, I love this plan. And then they're just perfect the next day, and it's so messy, and we have to be willing to continue the hard work of what you're teaching, the hard work of these habits, the hard work of intentionality, the hard work of these things, knowing that we will see a payoff, we will see a harvest, we will see fruit, but it's not going to be tomorrow, and it may not even be next month or next year, but it's over the long haul. These things get ingrained in them. When you talk about the mess, a phrase that has really helped me, and this just came to me one day, like, I don't know, a few years ago. The phrase is this, to help me like have the grace you're talking about, have the grace for my kids that Jesus has for me, right? Of course they do. That's the phrase. Of course they do. So as an example, I work from home. I run my business from home ever since I left Ramsey. And so I have French doors on the outside of my office so my kids can see in here. And so if my daughter would be home from preschool and she would walk by and she would barge in and I'm in the middle of writing and she's like, mommy, 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 and she's all over me. I used to get really frustrated, be like, I'm working. Like, I can't focus, please. Like, give me a minute, just give me 5 minutes, just anything. And then I just started, it's like that phrase, of course she does. She's in her home and she walks by a room and sees her mom.
Yeah.
Of course what else would she do? She's 5 years old. I'm her whole world. Carter spills the milk and it's like, well, of course he does. He's a child. They spill things. They're clumsy. Of course they do. It's just this simple phrase that's helped me put myself in their shoes and think of them as a child, which they are, instead of an adult that you have all these expectations that they can think like I can or have executive function like I do. And they don't. Of course they do. One of the things that I think is really challenging as a parent, and I've definitely felt this with my kids with different neurodivergence. We've got anxiety and ADHD and autism, and we've just got a lot going on. And one of the things I've really struggled with, but I think all parents do, is knowing when to give grace and like support them and just meet them where they are, and when to push them and not let them just stay there. And so I'll give you an example. Okay, this is a real example from like last week, Justin. I like to share real examples. So my son Conley, He has autism and ADHD, and he has come so far. He's brilliant and funny, and he's a leader. He also has a bent towards being pretty negative. Okay. Like anything new is bad. If it's new, is bad. I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to like that. That's going to be bad. That new food is bad. Everything's bad. So, for years we've really supported him, and we've done ABA and OT and speech therapy. We've done all these things, and he's incredible. He's come so far. But on this particular day, we're driving to school for field day, okay? And they're going to do a fun run. And he's got it in his mind that the fun run's going to be terrible, and he's not going to do the fun run, and he hates the fun run. And what if there's other people there, and what if they're big, and what if they're tall, and all the things, whatever. And Justin, I don't know what got into me. I've been on a real quick lately of like pushing my kids a little more because I think they're ready for it versus always being like, okay, whatever you're
Yeah,
comfortable with,
yeah.
okay, right? I'm like, so like I try the whole, well, tell me about that. Well, tell me about the big kids. Well, tell me what we're worried about. Well, let's dig into it. So we spent about 5 minutes of the car ride of me supporting him. And it was still just like, no, I go, let me tell you something right now. I go, we're going to spend the rest of the ride doing positive affirmations. I go, I went into full business coach, Christy Wright, monologue, pep talk, like just inspirational speech or whatever for at least 5 minutes. Like, you are in charge of your attitude. You get to choose if you have a good day or a bad day. It is totally up to you. I mean, just this whole rant. I wasn't yelling, but I was firm. And I go, now repeat after me.
I can't wait to hear this.
I'm thankful I have legs. He's like, I'm thankful I have legs. I get to run. I'm going to have a good day. I just start making him repeat these things. Okay. If you would have seen me in the car, Justin, you would have thought she is a crazy person. But I was like, I've had it. I'd had it with bad attitude. I tried to meet him where he was. And I was like, today we're going to push you. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing at all. Isn't that parenting? We're like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, totally.
Going for it. So I make him repeat after me the whole way to school. Today's going to be a good day. I'm going to encourage my friends. I'm going to be happy for my friends who win. I'm going to be proud of myself no matter how I do. I mean, just affirmation. I'm making him repeat this. We get there, and that child has an absolute blast in the fun run.
Yes.
He is laughing and dancing, high-fiving his friends. He came in like middle of the pack. I have never seen him do something like this. Normally, he is like devastated if he doesn't win, which he never, because in his mind, it's like winning and losing is really hard. And I was just like, it worked. It worked. I don't know that that's always right. But my point is, sometimes we don't know when to support and give grace and just meet them where they are. Like, they're not ready for that. That's too much. It's not, you don't want to overwhelm their nervous system. And when to like, no, man. Like, we're not, like, change your attitude, like step it up. How do you discern that? When to give grace and when to push them? I think that's so hard.
I do think it's really hard. And I don't know that I can answer that question well, as much as affirm that you are their parent for a reason. You are the expert, probably more than anybody else is. You study them, you're around them, and you need to know that you need to make that Christy Wright turn that was made to saying, all right, I think now's the time. And you might be wrong a lot of times, but I think that, Christy, is a beautiful and important turn, particularly, depending on where people are. This is a little to middle age children turn where, children are very vulnerable and very, tender at first. But when they start to get a little bit older, and some of them, so this is just like 2, 3, 4, you can start, no, you can pick that up yourself. Sometimes it's just 4, 5, 6. Like, no, I think you'll be okay walking, across the street by yourself. I'll watch you, And then, 7, 8, 9. Like, no, you got to get it. You got to run the race. And then, 10, 11, 13. It's like, you're gonna do this on your own. I'm making up these stages, but the idea of saying, oh, I need to get comfortable with the fact that they're going to be better off struggling and failing or persevering or suffering because this is good for them. This is really healthy for them. I think a lot of parents are scared to do what you did and say, I'm gonna challenge you. But I think it's so important. I don't know if I can say when the right time is. I just know if you're not doing it, then you are robbing them of something that is so important for them. And that is to realize that they can do more than they think and that they need for it not to be done for them.
Yeah. It's interesting. I love what you said about you're the parent, you know them best, because most of the decisions we've made as a family have come from this deep knowing, not an external source. So like this year, and as in like at the time of this recording next week, my son is finishing up at this very specialized school he's been at for 3 years. And we love this school. It's been incredible and life-changing. And I feel like we're done. There's not a single thing wrong. No teacher has said you're done. I just have this deep knowing He's done at this school and he's ready for a new challenge. So I love that word of encouragement to parents. It's like, if you feel something in your heart, that's the Holy Spirit leading you. It's time for a change or time to push, or the opposite. It's time to pull back. It's like, hey, give some grace here because they're not ready for that. Like that's too much pressure. And like you said, we won't always get it right, which is why we do
No,
that grace,
but as
grace
I
after
hear you
fault.
say that, I'm hearing the deep intuition of a mother, which is so powerful. And like, yeah, I've been married going on 18 years this fall, and we've been parents for 13 of those. And the amount that I've grown to respect Lauren's intuition about, I think he's sick. I think something's wrong. Yeah, I'm like, at first I was like, you're crazy. Like, I don't know you're a hypochondriac. And then the more times she's been right, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman has a deep, like, intuitive understanding of these children in a way that I don't. And I would say for all the dads out there or the moms thinking about their husbands, the same thing is true where I'll say, hey, no. He needs to get up. Don't run out and help him. Or he fell over. She's like, oh my gosh. No, stay right here. He needs to figure that out. And I think there's a deep fatherly intuition that is typically, it's not this simple, but there's the typical, like, fathers, start to let them push them away out of the house. Like, you can figure this on their own. Mothers pull in and comfort. And to learn to trust the other's intuition and navigate that and say, okay, you go. You seem to have the stronger intuition here. The beauty of parenting as dads and moms together is that, and I know not everybody has that, but the beauty of it is that you have that double intuition of saying, okay, I think now's the time. And that's just a huge blessing.
I'm actually thinking of an example from just a few weeks ago where there was a party my son was invited to, and I didn't know a lot of the people. They're lovely people, but they weren't his best friends. And Carter's had some trouble this year with just people making fun of him. And I had a past experience with the party with his brother, and all that fear came up in me, and I just didn't want him to go. I just feared the party. I feared the people. I felt everything. And Matt said to me, he needs to go. He needs to go to this party. He may make some new friends that he hasn't had. Matt was absolutely right. He had the best time. It built his confidence. Like, that was the situation where I definitely saw Matt's intuition come into play. And you're right. It's really cool to see at different times how we all have that different insight. Okay. I want to talk about your latest book, The Big Mess. So you have written to
Yes.
adults for a while. You've now written a children's book. Tell me about the book, and also tell me, like, how did you get this idea? Was this scary to do something new? Tell me, and then tell me, of course, about the book.
Well, we've set up a lot of the themes here, which is great because we've said over and over, it is messy. It's a messy job. It is messy to figure this out. And at some point I wanted to say, I want to talk to kids about this too. And I want to talk to parents in a kid way because sometimes it helps us to just hear a story. It's a kid's book. It is totally fun and funny. It's a rhyming kid's book about two brothers. They're mice, and the big brother mouse makes giant desserts. So you'll see on the cover like a huge ice cream sundae getting splattered here because what happens is Big Brother Mouse builds these enormous dessert creations, and then his little baby brother, who they nickname Moose because he's so clumsy and bumbling and gets in the way of everything, like we know this, right? Like,
Right. We all
little
have
brothers, everybody has one. And I've had a couple parents ask their kids or send me a video of them asking their kids, like, so which one of you is Mouse and which one is Moose? And the kids know right away. They're like, oh, I like to build stuff. And the other one's like, yeah, I kind of always mess it, or like, I wreck it, And that's the dynamic of these brothers, that Mouse builds incredible, larger than life dessert creations. And Moose just accidentally every time manages to splatter them. And there's two things going on here, Christy. One is the delight of children, because as it turns out, kids love giant desserts and they love seeing them splattered. So like on every page, it's just like, oh, how big is that cookie? Oh, wow, how big is that explosion? But the other thing that's going on is Mouse learning to do exactly what we've talked about, and that is to say, get content with the messiness of family and realize that actually it's those moments of mess that become our moments of reconciliation, love, and relationship. So in just a little simple turn of the book, Mouse first gets really sad that his brother keeps accidentally crashing all this stuff. But then he has a moment of saying, wait a minute, what if I make something that's made to be smashed is in the line in the book. And that is invite my brother into what he seems to be so good at, and that is messing
Right.
stuff up. So
His
they build this huge ice cream sundae that's on the cover of the book, and they smash it, and it splatters into a sky of raining sundaes for the whole neighborhood to like fill up their bowl. And this is a parable to me. It's just a fun story. And it can be read at many levels. Like if you have a 3 or 4 year old, they're probably just going to love it. They're just going to love the rhyme, the pictures. But if you have a 5 or 6 year old, or if you're the parent listening in, it is a little parable on the idea that to lean into the mess and to learn to reconcile in it, give grace, and come to the other person instead of being like, no, it has to be my way, is the art of relationship and family. And it's the art of sibling reconciliation. It's the art of reconciliation with our children after we've been too hard on them simply because they're little children and they make a mess. And there's an author's note at the end to help you think about this stuff. I talk a little bit in the author's note about how Jesus often told parables that didn't mention God until the end. And that's what this book is. It doesn't mention God until you get to the author's note. And then you think a little bit with your children. There's some questions to ask them about, do you ever make a mess? Does anybody ever frustrate you? Like, are you more like Moose? Are you more like Mouse? Like, what does God think of us when we make a mess? And it's just a way to introduce that conversation of saying, look, this is all a mess, but that is exactly where relationships are forged. When we have to forgive and reconcile and build deeper relationship, that's actually the gift of family. And if you avoid the mess, then you avoid wonderful, deep relationships. But if you see that God is working in it, then you get to beautiful relationships.
It's so good. One of the things I said when I was praying even before we started recording was your book, The Habits of the Household, and this book as well, is about God. On the cover you think, oh, it's about habits. It's like, no, this is about God. And it's about how God loves us and comes to us and how we can then love and come to others. And I just love even that imagery of the mess of the building something that he can smash. It's like meeting him where he is, coming to
Exactly.
him and creating something that he can be a part of. This is a really simple, silly example, but it came to mind. So when Mary Grace, my daughter, I have 3 kids, Carter, Conley, and Mary Grace. Mary Grace is my 5-year-old. Carter's my oldest. Conley's my middle. Conley's the one that has autism, and we didn't know at the time. We didn't know when Mary Grace was born that he did. He was 3 at the time, but Conley refused to be in pictures, like refused to be anywhere in the room of pictures at all. And so we're taking newborn photos, which is, just the most stressful day of your whole life when you're taking newborn photos. You're hormonal. I've been in the
It's
hospital
like,
5
why do
days
we do this to
ago.
ourselves? Yeah.
How am I going to get clean, the house clean, the kids clean? Like this is a disaster scenario. Anyway, but let's say we get all that together. Getting Conley in the picture was impossible. And I just wanted a picture of the 5 of us. Like we're a family of 5. I'd wanted my whole life for a big family. And I wanted Conley. We couldn't get the child in the picture. Okay. Like he's literally kicking and screaming, and we understood much more later. So when we had this idea, and I'll try to share this, see if I can put this in the clip on social, but we had this idea to just throw him through the air onto the bed because he liked to be thrown. This is something we do before bed, just wrestling, right? Like we'd flip him and throw him and toss him. So we have pictures of me, Justin, sitting on the edge of my bed, holding my newborn daughter, Carter sitting quietly by, as the oldest child does, and then Conley just flying through the
Oh
air
my gosh, I
behind us
love that so
as
much.
Matt would just throw him. And Conley was just delighted, right? Because his dad's just throwing him. But that was how we got all 5 in the picture, was by throwing Conley. But as silly as that is, of Conley flying through the air in these family photos, it's a picture of meeting him where he is. It's like, what can we do
Yes.
that's fun for Conley? Conley likes to be thrown and flip and fly and so on. And this is a way to get him in the picture. And so I just love how your book talks about how to, even that example of the kids' book, of meeting them where they are and coming to them, and even seeing the beautiful gospel story of that I think so often we're like, I just want a clean house. I want it to look perfect. It's like, I don't know. God meets us in our mess. The hope, the healing, the restoration, the real relationship, all that happens in the mess. And so we shouldn't despise the mess, but instead embrace it and find that hope in it.
That is a beautiful little story. I just want to acknowledge that. I mean, honestly, my great hope, Christy, would be that parents read The Big Mess to their kids and kids are delighted. And then secondly, that parents think about exactly what you just said or exactly what Big Brother Mouse does in the book. And that is say, why does it have to be the perfect way that I imagine it? Like, yeah, we could force a screaming and kicking child into a picture, or we could just embrace this mess. And as it turns out, I bet those pictures are far more beautiful because you're
Oh,
like,
they're
yeah,
awesome.
look, he's delighted. This is what actually a family picture looks like. That you're figuring out what works for everybody, and in that mess, beautiful smiles are created. And that is honestly what the book is about. And that story is literally the book in action. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I have just so enjoyed our conversation. I love the book. It's one of those books that honestly, Justin, I could go back and read again and again and again, and a different thing like sit with me because I feel like it is as practical and common sense that it is as it is. It's also deep. It's deep. It like you would deliver these lines, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I need to like pause the audiobook and sit with that for a minute. Like even on our conversation when you said grace isn't good if you don't need it, I'm like, oh, like I need like that. That's a deep spiritual truth that's really it's really, really good. But I've loved our conversation. I think it is something that has given me such hope. And it's also really challenged me to think about some of these routines that we have and what do I want them to be versus reacting to what they are. We're going into summer right now. I've encouraged people, summer's a great time to experiment with new routines, new systems, new habits, because you don't have the pressure of
Yes.
school. You can kind of try
Yes.
some new stuff. And we did that last summer with the anxious generation. We changed a lot of things in our family as a result of that book in the summer. And then you just kind of continue it when school is back and it's easier on your kids and on your family. So this is a great time. Y'all be sure to pick up a copy of The Habits of the Household and The Big Mess, both his adult book and kids book. He has other books as well. I would love to, before we wrap up and close, I'd love to share just a quick testimony of something that happened literally this morning, Justin.
Oh yeah, I do.
That is so a picture of what we're saying of this long obedience in the same direction, because everything you teach in your book, y'all, you're not going to see fruit the next day, and it's going to be messy, and your kids are going to get frustrated. They're going to wiggle. You're going to get frustrated because you have in your mind, you're all praying, holding hands, everybody's being sweet. And that's just not reality. But if you will stick with it, if you will stick with some of these very simple practices of praying over your kids, blessing your kids, changing how you react to your kids, some of these date nights with your spouse, how you introduce them to work, so many things you cover in this book. If you will stick with it and teach them explicitly the things that you want them to be and learn and know and do, your values of your family, you will look up one day and you'll get these glimmers of hope and go, oh my gosh, it's working. Oh my gosh, they're getting it. So my son Conley has said, I love you to me twice in his whole life. Once when he was, I'm for sure gonna cry when I tell the story. Okay. Once when he was 2,
Only
and
way to tell a
once,
good story.
yeah, once when he was 2 and or 3, and then once maybe when he was like 5.5, when he was in big trouble. And honestly, I was so mad at him because he had been so mean to me all day that I said, you have to say something nice to me. You have to say something nice to me, and you have to say it now. And he finally like mustered out like, I love you. That was when he was 5. I tell him I love him multiple times a day, every day, as every parent does, but he just doesn't say it. And I've talked to him about love. Like, do you love me? And he said, I don't know love. I don't want to say it. It's hard. Like, cause I talk about it openly. I don't just hope that he feels it, but it's one of those things that's like, I know it's very hard for him to express, and it's hard, but it's just a reality of our relationship of having a child with autism and other challenges. So my daughter brought me a picture yesterday that was out of Conley's folder from school, and I was busy. I was cooking. I was doing this. I was like, oh, cute, whatever. I just kind of set it aside. This morning I looked at it, and it was a picture he had drawn for me and given to Mary Grace to bring to me. He didn't want to bring it to me himself, and he wrote, I love you on it. And it's like those moments you go, okay. Like they're getting it. They're getting it. Like it's a long road, y'all. It's a long road. But when you have those moments, you go, they're getting it. When your child prays, when your child, Conley walked up to an adult the other day and put his hand out and said, my name's Conley Wright, and shook his hand and looked him in the eyes. And I was like, look at you, man. They're getting it. If we can only have the persistence and endurance and strength and energy from the Lord to stay with it for the long haul, it will pay off. So thank you for your work. Thank you for teaching. Thank you for giving such practical steps we can do to see that fruit in our lives. I would love it if you would tell us how our listeners, how they can connect with you, get a copy of the book, and keep up with everything you're doing, including your new book coming out this fall.
Yeah, I would love for anybody to go to justinwhitmelearly.com, and you can find that in the show notes, or just Google Justin Earley, author, lawyer, and you'll find me. And join the email list. So that's a great way to keep up with anything I'm writing about. And I send a lot of free devotional resources or like habit ideas to try. So that's probably the best way. Anybody who's on Instagram, I share a lot of like short reels on habit ideas there too. So you're welcome to follow along there. But this has been just a delightful conversation, Christy. And I really actually love where you left it off. I mean, Jesus has been patient and persistent with us. And it's just a reminder and encouragement to be patient and persistent with our children, because that's how he's treated his children, which is us. So let's go parent like him.
That's right. And we still need it every day. So Justin, thank you for your conversation. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for being with us. And I just pray blessings over all your efforts. Thanks for being here.
You're so welcome.
All right, that's it for this week's episode of Get Your Hopes Up. I love hanging out with you every Monday to help you get to know God, get closer to Him, and get your hopes up again. Be sure to share this episode on Instagram and Facebook so other people can get their hopes up as well. And then I'll see you next Monday for another new episode of Get Your Hopes Up.